I can't do it, guys. I can't do the whistle. 3 movies, and I still can't do it. And I can't even do this. I can't do it right. Is that right? Yeah, that's not bad. Anyway, hey there, guys. What's up? It's Autobot Mike 18 here with another movie review. Guys, it's been a while since I've done a movie review. It is great to be back in the movie reviewing mood. Guys, what can I say? I was really looking forward to this film that I'm going to be reviewing for you today. It was one of my most highly anticipated films of the year. It was actually my number 2 most highly anticipated film of the year. I was waiting for it ever since January when I made my list. And now it's finally out. I've waited all this time. And of course, in this video, I am going to be talking about The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. That's right, guys. I saw The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 today. You don't know how many times I kept thinking Catching Fire. Like, I was about to say, oh, I'm going to go see Mockingjay today, but I said Catching Fire. I don't know. I guess it's a mix-up. So anyway, guys, yes, this is Part 1 of the finale to the Hunger Games saga. Yes, the Hunger Games went the Harry Potter and Twilight saga route and split the last movie into 2, much to everyone's dismay. And now we gotta wait another year for the conclusion. It's gonna be a long year. But, yeah, guys, so as you guys know, I am definitely a huge fan of the Hunger Games series. Ever since the first one came out, I never read the books. I tell this to everybody. Go see the Hunger Games movies. Especially if you haven't read the books, you will think it's a pretty genius idea. And that's what I thought when I first saw the first Hunger Games. You know, I loved the first one. I love Catching Fire. I honestly can't even choose between the 2. I love both of them equally almost. And now we have Mockingjay, and I really got pumped for this movie, but not really by the trailers. The marketing really didn't do it for me this time around. The trailers really never got me hyped. What got me hyped was the fact that it was the next installment in this series, and that I was really looking forward to checking this film out. That's why I got hyped. And now here I am reviewing it. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is of course get into the plot synopsis of the film, and then I'll get into my thoughts a little bit later on, as I always do in my movie reviews. So, plot synopsis behind The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. I'm just going to call it Mockingjay Part 1. And then we have to get ourselves ready for the Divergent series, Allegiant Part 2, 3, whatever. And then, you know, they're even splitting the third Avengers movie into 2? Why? Why? But they are. So anyway, guys, getting back to Hunger Games world, the movie is set basically right after the end of Catching Fire, pretty much. Katniss completely changed everything by that one arrow shot to the force field in the 75th Hunger Games. And now, each side, the side of the Capitol and the side of District 13, which was once believed to be extinct, they are basically readying themselves for war. The Capitol has kidnapped Peeta, played by Josh Hutcherson, as well as a few other important tributes, and President Snow is using them to get to Katniss and really break her down. And Katniss, meanwhile, is being nearly forced into becoming this symbol, this Mockingjay symbol, for the side of District 13, run by President Alma Coin, I think? Just President Coin, okay? Played by Julianne Moore, and of course, Plutarch Heavensbee, played by the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. Katniss is being pressured to become this symbol in order to ignite this rebellion. She needs, District 13 wants her to ignite this rebellion, get the other districts to rebel with them, so they can take down the Capitol and take down President Snow. Yet, Katniss is not happy until because she wants Peeta to get rescued because he's in the clutches of the Capitol. And they're doing some pretty messed up things to him. And that's all I'm going to say about the premise of Mockingjay Part 1. Now, I'm going to say this right here because this film, right off the bat, guys, has been getting a lot of complaints. A lot of people have been like, oh, there's no payoff. There's just nothing. They set up this conflict and boom, that's it. Nothing gets resolved. This is a terrible movie. The worst Hunger Games franchise series entry, whatever. Okay, yes, that does happen in this film. This conflict does get established between Katniss and the Capitol. You know, she becomes this Mockingjay symbol, and she's trying to rally up support from the other districts who are sort of on the fence at this point. They don't know what they want to do. Are they going to just stay there and let the Capitol rule over their lives, or are they actually going to rebel against them for all that they've been through? And Katniss needs to become the symbol. So this conflict is introduced way on early on in the movie. Is it resolved in this film? No. You guys want to know why it's not resolved? Because this is part 1. The title says it all, guys. So if you're going into this movie looking for a resolution, looking for an actual ending that resolves things, you're not going to get that, because the title is basically telling you, listen, you want that resolution? You're going to get it in part 2. You got to wait another year. That's what it's called. So right off the bat, you can't really complain too much about that with Mockingjay part 1. However, sort of the same thing happened with Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2. Now, I never watched The Twilight when they split that into 2, but with Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2, they split the 7th book into 2 parts. The first film didn't resolve anything either. They set up this conflict of Harry trying to find the Horcruxes, and then it left it on a complete cliffhanger. And that's why you gotta wait for part 2. So, whenever there is gonna be a part 1 and part 2, you're not gonna get that resolution. So right off the bat, you really can't complain too much. What do you expect? Nevertheless, is this the best Hunger Games movie we've had yet? No, it's not. It's definitely not. Definitely not better than the first 2, which, like I said, I think I both gave them 9.5 ratings. I love both of them almost equally, honestly. I really have trouble picking which one I love more. I loved both of them. Now we have Mockingjay, and it's definitely not as good as the first 2. Yet, is it a solid entry on its own right? Yeah, it kind of is. The movie has a level of humor in it, which I liked. Francis Lawrence is returning to direct this one. He did a very good job with Catching Fire, and I think he did a decent job with this. I think a lot more of him was required. I think a lot more of him was required in Catching Fire. Like, he had to do a lot more because you had the whole game scene, and that was like a lot to do. This one, there's really just a lot of dialogue, a lot of build-up, a lot of character development, and a few tension-riddled scenes, and that's what you're going to get with Mockingjay. You're really not going to get that action, and that's kind of where the movie faltered a little bit for me. Nevertheless, it's still a solid entry on its own right. I still had my enjoyment with it. Like I said, the script was good overall. The humor in it was great. The film sort of becomes like a political thriller, almost like Captain America the Winter Soldier, just nowhere near as intense in my opinion. However, there were some really solid, tension-filled moments in this movie that really, put me on the edge of my seat. It was like, I haven't read the books. I have no idea what's going to happen. So I like stuff like that, and I think that really worked for Mockingjay Part 1. Now, getting into the cast, guys, this cast is huge. It keeps growing. I can't keep track of all these actors. It's insane. I think they got rid of one actor from the last 2 movies, and they literally added like 3 or 4 more, and plus everyone else. A lot of people in this movie. Of course, our three of the main characters who absolutely shine as always. Jennifer Lawrence, Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was great in Catching Fire, is great in this, of course. Julianne Moore was really good as President Coin. I thought she was a nice addition to the cast. And then we also have, of course, Donald Sutherland. Also, always does a great job as President Snow. There was one shot, he literally creeped me out with something. He was talking to Katniss about something, all right? That's all I'm going to say. And it creeped me out. He's perfect. He's really become this villain that we're starting to really, really loathe, and I really like that. But, of course, guys, I don't know why Jennifer Lawrence is garnering all this hate. She was like God. She was basically God years ago, 2 years ago when Hunger Games came out. Her breakout role, okay? And now everyone's saying she's overrated. She's a terrible actress. I completely disagree with that on every level. Jennifer Lawrence keeps this movie going, keeps us engaged. She goes to great lengths as her character of Katniss. She has owned this role. She's owned this role since the beginning. I buy into her character every single step of the way. She goes through challenges each and every single film and always has to deal with them head on. Always finds a way to evade them. I love that character of Katniss, and I love it. She's excellently portrayed by Jennifer Lawrence. Enough said. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman, God rest his soul, was great, of course. Julianne Moore was great. Donald Sutherland was great. It was really nice to see a lot more of Liam Hemsworth as Gale. That's something I didn't like about the first one. We did not see enough of him. He was sort of an unnecessary character, honestly. We saw a lot more of him in Catching Fire, and we saw a lot more of him being a badass in Mockingjay Part 1, and I like that. He goes on some missions. He actually gets stuff done and shows that he's a true-born fighter. He's always supporting Katniss, and I like that, and I'm glad that they elaborated on his character a little bit more in this one. Now, one of my problems with the supporting cast weren't the performances, the fact that they're not in the movie as much as they should be. Namely, some of your favorite characters from the first two really don't show up in the movie as much as they probably should have been. Especially Woody Harrelson as Haymitch. One of my favorites, of course. He really only shows up when the plot needs him to encourage or inspire Katniss, and that's really it. And I don't know, I kind of missed old Woody Harrelson, you know? And then even Elizabeth Banks playing Effie Trinket, she had a big scene in the beginning, kind of fades out throughout the rest of the movie. Sam Claflin, who plays Finnick, hardly in the beginning, and has one big important scene at the end, and that's really it. You know, they didn't do too much with him. Jenna Malone, who plays, I can't think of her name, I'm drawing blanks here. Johanna Mason, Jenna Malone playing Johanna Mason. One scene in the movie, you know? I felt that these characters needed to be more in the film a lot more. We have a lot of new characters, supporting characters, but some characters weren't in the movie enough. Some were just underused, frankly. And of course, the most underused character is actually one of our leads, and that's Josh Hutcherson. And I know it's because of his character's predicament. He's not physically with Katniss in this film for basically the whole movie. And that's because of his predicament. Still, he's our lead actor, so, you know, you kind of got to say to yourself, I need more Peeta. But anyway, guys, apart from those minor complaints, I still found myself to really enjoy this film. Did I enjoy it, or did I get as excited as I did when I watched the first two Hunger Games movies? No, but I still feel that the series hasn't lost its spark, you know? It really, this isn't the movie that's ruined the series or anything like that. I enjoyed it. I found much entertainment in it, even though it wasn't as entertaining as the first two were. It still has its tension-filled moments. It's very well shot and directed by Francis Lawrence. Well, he didn't do the cinematography, but you get what I mean. The writing was good. There was humor in there. The whole political aspect of the film was nice with the... oh god, I was going to say pornography. No, propaganda, there we go. The whole propaganda aspect, I really like that. It really says a lot about how the world is in this movie and how we kind of are with propaganda and politics and all that. Nevertheless, guys, my final verdict, oh yeah, the cast was great, the editing, the soundtrack, the score, I really loved all that going for this film. It was fast-paced, never really felt slow for me, even though there isn't a lot of action, which is one of my biggest downfalls. Nevertheless, guys, I'm going to give The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 a solid 8.5 out of 10. I was this close to going 8.75 or B+. I'm going to give it a solid B. It's definitely not as good as the first two Hunger Games, yet it never really falls back or falls short of thrills or intense moments or some deep character moments like scenes between Katniss and her sister or scenes between Katniss and Gale. You know, it never falls short on that. It never underdevelops the main characters, even though some of the supporting characters were slightly underused. And although it needed a little bit more excitement and a few more action scenes, there still is enjoyment to be had with the film. Like I said, Francis Lawrence, getting to my pros, Francis Lawrence does a great job directing, even though I never hated Gary Ross when he did the first Hunger Games. You know, the shaky cam, alright, was it a little too much in a few scenes? Yeah. Does Francis Lawrence do a better job? Probably, but still, I like both. Francis Lawrence, though, again, did great. Like I said, the writing was fine, dialogue was fine, funny. This is probably the funniest of the Hunger Games movies. You know, there's a few funny moments here and there because you have this very somber, very calm mood for most of the film until the tension starts to rise. So in those scenes, you gotta have humor, so that worked. The editing was fine. The movie felt fast-paced, still felt exciting, even not as exciting as the first two. The soundtrack was great. The cast was great. The score by James Newton Howard, all that really works for me. My only complaints with the film is that it definitely is not as action-packed as the first two were because they have games. The games, this film doesn't. So you got to take that into account as well. Other than that, trying to find other flaws. Apart from a few underused characters and an ending that just wasn't so satisfying, but it's not satisfying because you gotta wait till part 2. Okay, the ending of Catching Fire was way better than the ending to this, although the ending to this is just, this is a setup movie, guys, that's the bottom line. Mockingjay Part 1 is setting us up for a finale that I am still very excited for. This movie didn't hurt my feelings towards The Hunger Games. It didn't add to my feelings toward The Hunger Games. It just got me pumped for the next installment, which is going to be badass. That's all I can say. So, B for me, guys. 8.5 out of 10. I definitely recommend you see it. Fans of the book, fans of the movies, you're going to love it. However, if you didn't love the first two, then you're not going to love this. That's all there is to say. So guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you saw Mockingjay Part 1, let me know what you thought about it down below. And also, are you upset that they split the last movie into 2 parts? I am. Are you guys upset? Let me know about that down below in the comments. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.